Hello, and here is the news of this hour from TSTV. I am Olaide Amosu. Here are some major headlines. UI, Lautech get approval to operate open distance learning. Persons living with disabilities won't be shortchanged under me, says Makinde. COVID-19 deaths in Lagos now 59. On the foreign scene, George Floyd had coronavirus before his death, says autopsy. Obama backs young US protesters' 6 use of force policy review. And Brazil records 1,349 coronavirus deaths in 24 hours. In sports, ITF locks out Nigeria from COVID-19 palliatives. Now the news in details. Oyo State Governor Engineer Seyi Makinde on Wednesday distributed palliatives to persons living with disabilities in the state, declaring that his administration will ensure that they are not shortchanged in the scheme of things. The governor, who stated this at the governor's office secretariat Agodi, Ibadan, during the distribution of palliatives to persons living with disabilities, maintained that pretenders and impersonators will never again be allowed to take what rightly belongs to people living with disabilities in the state. A statement by the Chief Press Secretary to Governor Makinde, Mr. Taiwo Adisa, indicated that the distribution of palliatives to people living with disabilities in the state is in the third phase of the palliatives distribution in the state, with the state having distributed palliatives to 90,000 poorest of the poor households, as well as the distribution of seedlings, herbicides, pesticides and other farm inputs to 10,000 farmers in the first and second phases. In his speech, the governor reiterated his promise to set up an agency for persons with disabilities, noting that his administration has not forgotten its commitment in that regard. He added that the agency will be in place before the administration's second anniversary in office. And the Court of Appeal sitting in Ibadan has reserved the judgment in a suit filed by the Oyo State government challenging a court order against the dissolution of the 33 local government council chairmen and their counterparts in the 35 local council development areas in the state. The state governor had earlier appealed against the judgment of the High Court delivered on May 6, 2019 by Justice Aderonke Aderemi, restraining the state from dissolving the elected 68 chairmen. Governor Seyi Makinde had, on the assumption of office on May 29, 2019, appealed against the judgment and dissolved the local government chairman in the state. The 3-member panel of appeal judges, chaired by Justice Jimmy Bada on Wednesday, reserved the judgment after hearing arguments of counsels from both sides in the suit. Counsel for the Oyo State government, Kunle Kalejaye San, said the lower court had no jurisdiction to hear the case. According to him, the chairman filed the suit at the lower court based on the rumor that Makinde would dissolve the council executives after being sworn in as governor on May 29, 2019. Kalejaye urged the court to dismiss the judgment of the lower court and uphold the appeal. However, counsel for the respondents, Yusuf Ali, senior advocate of Nigeria, said the action could not be termed as immature because the law allows a person to approach the court when such person notices that his right has been threatened. The Nigerian Universities Commission (NUC) has revealed that only the University of Ibadan (UI) and Ladoke Akintola University (Lautech) and 10 other Nigerian universities have approval to operate both conventional learning and open and distance learning. These 12 universities were given conventional licenses to operate a dual-mode system, that's face-to-face learning in the classroom and also the open distance learning. The NUC also said only a few of these universities can run an efficient online learning platform, noting that there is a big difference between online learning and open and distance learning. Distance learning is a method of studying in which lectures are broadcast or lessons are conducted by correspondence without the need to attend a school or college. Since the advent of the internet, distant learning has also included the use of the internet, as most students receive and write their examinations online. Dual mode refers to universities that can give instructions in the conventional classroom, that is face-to-face, and it can also give instructions on open and distance learning. Distance learning employs multimedia, and then he uses online mediums to lecture students. Out of the 43 federal universities, 9 were given licenses to run both conventional and open distance learning centers in Nigeria. 2 state universities were licensed to operate both conventional and open distance learning centers out of the 48 universities, and 1 private university out of the 79 private universities was given the license to operate the dual system mode. The 12 universities that are licensed for both conventional and open distance learning are Ahmadu Bello University, which is a federal university, University of Abuja, University of Maiduguri, Modibo Adama University of Technology, Obafemi Awolowo University, University of Lagos, University of Ibadan, University of Nigeria, and Federal University of Technology, Mina. Lagos State University, which is a state university, Ladoke Akintola University of Technology, Joseph Ayo Babalola University, which is a private university, and the National Open University of Nigeria, NOUN, operates a unimode learning system. A unimode system simply means that the NOUN can only operate through the open and distance learning mode. The institution was not granted the license to operate dual mode like the other 12 universities. In an interview with the spokesman of the NUC, Ibrahim Yakasai, said online mode of learning is beyond WhatsApp and Telegram groups, which most universities and students are calling online classes. The Director General Operation Boss, Colonel Oladipo Ajibola, has announced an inter-agency collaboration with Oyo State Road Transport Management Authority for efficient service delivery in Oyo State. The collaboration gathered by our correspondent is that it is a conscious effort to end traffic and security challenges across the state. The Director General Operation Boss, Colonel Ajibola, made this known today when he paid a courtesy visit to the Executive Chairman of the Oyo State, Dr. Akin Fagbemi, at the authority's Administrative Headquarters Secretariat, Ibadan. According to the Colonel Oladipo, the decision to collaborate with the OYRTMA is a follow-up to a meeting held with Dr. Akin Fagbemi a few weeks ago, noting that security is a basic ingredient for peace, development, and progress in any society. He stressed that security challenges facing some parts of the state stems from lack of inter-agency collaboration, adding that Operation Boss has decided to collaborate with the OYRTMA in getting rid of miscreants. He identified areas of collaboration such as a holistic approach to manage and control traffic and traffic-related crimes within the state capital and other parts of the state. The Colonel Oladipo, assured OYRTMA of his maximum cooperation, saying that the interagency collaboration would result in more public value than could be produced by either of the government agencies alone. Still on the national scene, Lagos State has discharged 20 more coronavirus patients. The patients were discharged upon treatment and recovery, the State Health Ministry said via Twitter on Wednesday. It said the patients, which consist of 14 males and 6 females, were released to reunite with the society after testing negative twice for the virus. This brings to 928 the number of COVID-19 confirmed cases successfully managed and discharged in Lagos. An Osun State High Court sitting in Osogbo on Wednesday said constitutionally the name State of Osun does not exist. The court said that what is known to the country's constitution is Osun State. Justice Matthias Agbola, while delivering a judgment on a case brought before it by a lawyer, Mr. Komi Ajibola, against the state government over a personal task of 5.3 million naira on the State Internal Revenue Service, asked him to pay, said it amounted to artistic coloration when Osun State is referred to State of Osun. Ajibola had approached the courts to seek redress over tax demanded from him, which he said was punitive because he usually held opposing views to those of the immediate past governor, Rauf Aregbesola. The lawyer also urged the court to declare the law upon which the tax was based as illegal, since it was a law made by the House of Assembly of State of Osun, a body unknown to the Constitution. Defense counsel M. Pupola had asked that the case be struck out for lack of jurisdiction. In his judgment, Justice Agbola said lawyers should be wary of legal implications of referring to Osun State as the state of Osun. He, however, upheld the submission of the defense that Ajibola did not seek all necessary means of settlement before approaching the court. And the Kogi State government has denied recording the third case of coronavirus. The Kogi State Commissioner for Health, Dr. Saka Haruna, said no sample was sent to the Nigeria Center for Disease Control that could warrant a third case. The NCDC on Wednesday announced that Kogi recorded another COVID-19 case, but Haruna, in a Facebook post, said the state government was not aware of the fresh case. He posted, "The purported new case, we are not aware of who the patient is, where and when the test was conducted." No sample was sent from Kogi State government. While announcing the new case, NCDC said on the 3rd of June 2020, 348 new confirmed cases and 1 death were recorded in Nigeria. And some officials of the Ebonyi State government have tested positive to coronavirus. This was as the number of infections recorded in the state rose to 75 out of the over 3,000 sample tests conducted. In a statement signed by the Commissioner for Information and State Orientation, Uchenna Orji, the government said 26 COVID-19 patients have been treated and discharged, while 49 cases were still receiving treatment and were in stable conditions. Orji, who hinted that some members of the State Executive Council had contracted the virus, said they were currently receiving treatment and were in stable condition. The commissioner said in order to ensure contact tracing, the state government directed that all government offices be shut for 1 week effective this Thursday. Gombe State has recorded 3 additional deaths. This brings the COVID-19 death in the state to 7. According to the chairman of the Task Force on COVID-19, Professor Mohammed Idris, a director of Special Services and Political Office of the Secretary to the State Government, who died recently, was among the casualties. Idris disclosed this on Wednesday during a briefing on activities on the task force in the state. He stressed that the response team is going to embark on fumigation of the specific areas of the government house, as well as the clinic where he was admitted for days. And the Senate has queried the Central Bank of Nigeria over alleged unremitted $3.3 billion from the $21.3 billion collected by the Federal Inland Revenue Service as foreign tax in 2015. The Public Accounts Committee of the Red Chamber issued the query after its meeting on Wednesday. The Senate panel said it acted on an audit query raised against the CBN by the Office of the Auditor General for the Federation. Quoting the audit query, the panel said while the FIRS recorded $21.3 billion as the total sum of foreign tax collected by it in 2015 and domiciled in the Apex Bank, the CBN, on the other hand, recorded $18 billion. The chairman of the panel, Senator Matthew Urogide, asked the CBN management to explain the shortfall. Deputy Governor, Corporate Affairs of the bank, Mr. Edward Adamu, had given an explanation that was not convincing to the panel. The Deputy Governor said the shortfall of $3.3 billion was neither missing nor unremitted. He said variations in exchange rate during the time was the reason for the difference between the amounts recorded by the FIRS and the CBN. The Senate committee then directed him and other top officials of the CBN to report back to it on Monday with required documents on the alleged variations of in the exchange rate. The chairman of the committee told journalists after the session that the record of the FIRS showed $21.3 billion, while the record of the CBN reflected $18 billion. The committee has fixed Tuesday next week for the appearance of both government establishments. Those to appear before the panel, according to Urogide, are the Nigerian Army, the police, and the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission over their alleged unaudited accounts over the years. Moving on to the foreign scene, Cameroon's government faces mounting accusations that foot dragging and incompetence have helped coronavirus disease gain a deadly grip. In less than 3 months, the official case tally has risen to nearly 6,600, including 200 deaths, the third highest number of infections of any country south of the Sahara. Compared with Europe and America, this total is low, but experts warn of COVID-19's ability to spread like wildfire in countries where health systems are weak and testing is poor. Despite forecasts that cases would peak in June, schools and universities were suddenly told to reopen this week, prompting teachers and parents to warn that safety preparedness was nowhere near ready. Cameroon on March 5th became the first Central African country to register a case of COVID-19, a 58-year-old French national who had arrived in the capital Yaoundé in February. But it was not until 2 weeks later that authorities set down restrictions for the country's 25 million people. The opposition has repeatedly criticized what it says as the government's failure to take the threat of COVID-19 seriously, as many other African countries imposed radical containment measures early on. Albert Zay, an economist specializing in health issues, told AFP that management of the epidemic had been disastrous. We missed the opportunity to contain the virus at the very beginning, he said. President Paul Biya, who has been in power for nearly 4 decades, only appeared publicly on television on May 19th, pressured by the opposition and the World Health Organization after more than 2 months of silence. Rebutting such worries, Health Minister Manoda Malachi on Monday said the case figures should not be a cause for alarm. So far, the government has been in control of the situation. Snapchat on Wednesday became the latest social network moving to curb the reach of US President Donald Trump, claiming the president has been inciting racial violence. The youth-focused social network said it would no longer promote Trump on its Discover platform for recommended content. We will not amplify voices who incite racial violence and injustice by giving them free promotion on Discover, a statement from Snapchat said. The move came days after Twitter took an unprecedented stand by hiding a Trump post it said promoted violence, heating up the White House war with Silicon Valley and social media. Snapchat's parent Snap chief executive Ivan Spiegel over the weekend sent a lengthy memo to employees condemning what he saw as a legacy of racial injustice and violence in the US. Snapchat will not promote accounts in the US that are linked to people who incite racial violence on or off the messaging platform, according to Spiegel. The former US President Barack Obama on Wednesday applauded the profound protest by Americans demanding racial justice and said demonstrations over last week's killing of a black man in police custody could spark nationwide reforms. In his first video comments since George Floyd's death on May 25th in Minneapolis triggered unrest across the country, President Donald Trump's predecessor also urged state and local authorities to review their policies on the use of force. Obama directed his comments at young black men and women who he says have often witnessed or experienced too much violence. The 58-year-old, who remains popular among Democrats, noted the deadly upheaval of the 1960s civil rights movement and said a far more representative cross-section of America is protesting now than as compared to half a century ago. He also addressed the country's local leaders, saying, "I'm urging every mayor in this country to review your use of force policies with members of your community and commit to report on planned reforms." Obama did not directly address Trump's handling of the unrest, including the president's controversial demand that authorities dominate protesters. But Obama was reportedly outraged by the use of chemical dispersants on protesters outside the White House on Monday before Trump walked to a nearby church and held up a Bible. An autopsy conducted on Wednesday has shown that George Floyd, an African American who was allegedly killed on May 25th by a Minneapolis police officer, had coronavirus weeks before his death. The 20-page document released by the Hennepin County Medical Examiner's Office said a test of Floyd on April 3rd was positive for the virus genetic code, or RNA. RNA can remain in someone's body for weeks after the disease is gone. The autopsy says a second positive test after his death likely meant that Floyd, who is 46, was asymptomatic from an earlier infection when he died May 25th. The Hennepin County Medical Examiner's Office noted that there was no evidence the virus played a known role in Mr. Floyd's death, and being asymptomatic, it was unlikely to have been contagious. However, the final state autopsy released on Wednesday says Mr. Floyd's death was due to cardiopulmonary arrest, which is the stopping of his heart. The report adds that while Mr. Floyd's neck was compressed by former officer Derek Chauvin's knee for more than 8 minutes, it does not conclude that it was the direct cause of his death. His death has sparked protests in the US and other parts of the world. Brazil reported a record 1,349 coronavirus deaths in a 24-hour period on Wednesday, the Health Ministry said, as the pandemic continued to take a grim toll on Latin America's hardest hit country. The figure brought the total death number from the new coronavirus in Brazil to 32,548, with 584,016 confirmed infections, the second highest caseload worldwide, after the United States. Brazil's death toll, which has doubled in 17 days, is currently the fourth highest worldwide, after the US, Britain, and Italy. Experts say under-testing in the country of 210 million people means the real numbers are probably much more higher. President Jair Bolsonaro has fiercely criticized coronavirus isolation measures, even as the number of infections and deaths continue to soar in Brazil. Similarly, Mexico on Wednesday recorded more than 1,000 coronavirus-related deaths in a 24-hour period for the first time, the Office of the Health Secretary announced. The daily death toll of 1,092 was more than double the 470 fatalities reported the day before. Health Undersecretary Hugh Lopez-Gatell explained the stark jump by saying that some of the deaths recorded on Wednesday had occurred more than 2 weeks earlier. The country has now recorded 101,238 cases, the office said. Still on the foreign scene, meanwhile, Spain will reopen its land borders with France and Portugal on June 22nd, 3 months after they were closed to slow the spread of the coronavirus, its tourism minister said on Thursday. In the case of France and Portugal, I want to confirm that from June 22nd, the restrictions on mobility will be lifted, Reyes Marato said at a foreign press briefing. She added that in principle, the compulsory 14-day quarantine requirement will also be dropped for cross-border arrivals. Spain closed its borders with France and Portugal on March 17th, 3 days after imposing a nationwide lockdown to battle the virus, which has infected more than 240,000 people and killed over 27,000. Since May 15th, almost all international arrivals have had to self-isolate for 2 weeks to prevent a resurgence of the epidemic. That measure is to remain in place until July 1st for people flying in or arriving by boat. The announcement came a day after Spanish lawmakers voted to extend the state of emergency a final time to June 21st. It was the 6th time the measure has been renewed, although with the epidemic well in hand, associated restrictions have been significantly eased over time. Marato said 6,000 German tourists will be able to travel to Spain's Balearic Islands in the second half of June, within the context of a pilot project between the archipelago's regional government and the German tour operator TUI. And in sports, fans across the country have kicked against the resumption of the Nigeria Professional Football League without crowd. The league management company recently proposed 4 possible options to end the NPFL season following suspension since March as a result of the outbreak of the coronavirus pandemic. LMC chairman Shehu Diko said after thorough consideration, a playoff seemed the most suitable of the options to end the country's top-flight league. Our correspondent, however, spoke to some fans of the NPFL who disagreed with the decision to go ahead with the playoffs, except the matches will be shown on TV for fans to watch. The Nigerian players have been locked out of the International Tennis Federation or ITF COVID-19 relief fund following the dwindling fortune in global ranking. According to the president of the Nigeria Tennis Federation, NTF, Ifedayo Akindoju, The relief fund by ITF is meant for players in top 700 in the world, and no Nigerian player in men and women is rated within this range. I don't think any Nigerian player will benefit from the fund because we don't have any one of them in the range of those considered to benefit from the relief fund. However, as a national association, we're making efforts to appeal to the world body to support national associations in this trying period, he said. The ITF is in the process of finalizing a range of additional measures to support stakeholders impacted by COVID-19, including a relief fund to help tour players ranked 501 to 700 not covered under other relief programs. However, the NTF board said the federation would continue to support talented players in their quest to put Nigeria in the world map. And with that, we've come to the end of the news. A recap of the headlines. UI, Lautech get approval to operate open distance learning. And persons living with disabilities won't be shortchanged under me, says Makinde. COVID-19 deaths in Lagos now 59. And on the foreign scene, Judge Floyd had coronavirus before his death, says autopsy. Obama backs young US protesters, seeks use of force policy review. And Brazil records 1,349 coronavirus deaths in 24 hours. And in sports, ICF locks out Nigeria from COVID-19 palliatives. As the world eases out of lockdown, kindly ensure to take all advice and precautions as given by health workers. The news was compiled by Mobola Badekale. I am Olaide Amose. Good day and thank you for watching.